Would you like to support Cubs Out Loud? One way is to join us over on Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, patrons get early access to our shows, the pre- and post-show, and various other rewards. You can learn more at patreon.com/CubsOutLoud. Thanks to all our patrons for their support in making this podcast. It's Sunday, June 22nd, 2025. I'm Jeff.
Who's your bear? That's right. I am your bear.
I'm Damon.
I don't brew the tea, I just serve it.
And that makes me Gary.
Everyone else is thinking it, and I just say it.
Welcome to Cubs Out Loud, the Bear Podcast, the Indeterminate Length, episode number 788. And such a crick in the neck.
And you're back.
Sorry, I was trying to quote Aladdin, and then I was like, okay, my gesture's not right, so turn your head.
Your neck. You're back.
I knew it. I was like, that's what David was doing with that. I caught both of it. I knew what Jeff was doing, and I knew what David was doing. I was like,
10,000 years. You're such a crick in the neck. Anyways. Gary.
Well, there we go.
What was I saying? What are we talking about?
So, last week was Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, infamously online, a lot of people posted. I've been guilty of it in the past. You know, the memes that say, if you've ever thought of me as your daddy, you owe me a gift. You know, honor your daddies, give your daddies all the nudes. A whole bunch of daddies posted stuff. So, you know, that happened. But that being said, it got me thinking, because for those that aren't aware, we took a little bit of a hiatus for a couple weeks. We'll talk about it more and what's going on soon, but Damon was out of town. I had some personal things I was taking care of from my father's passing recently. So it was a good, like, kind of break with stuff. And it was my first Father's Day without my dad.
Oh. Mm.
Now, for some people, that can be pretty significant. My dad didn't make a big deal of it. So it wasn't like, it wasn't mournful or, sad or whatever.
Right.
But it was very wild to get a lot of marketing to be like, make sure you give your dad a gift or blah, 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 or take him out for this or blah, blah, blah. There's this sale. And
Here's some Father's Day present ideas.
Right. And I'm like, well, he's dead. So that's not valid.
Glad I didn't drink for my water.
But that's my dad's family's humor. Like, they would have totally, like, when I tell them this,
No.
I think we're going to be together for a holiday soon. I think they would have agreed and been like, yep, that makes sense. Like, not valid. But, the companies that are marketing don't know that. They're presuming the vast majority of people have dads. So,
right.
In connection with that, I was thinking about how demographically, age-wise, I have been a daddy, quote unquote, biologically for quite some time now. And I've had some very close inner circle people who have been young enough to be my own children in terms of age. When you get to the 15+ year age gap, definitively you could have brought them into the world.
Technically.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So But it got me thinking about like the aging aspect of things. And we've kind of talked about it a little bit here on the podcast. And what I realized is I don't know if we've ever really kind of talked about today, which is going from cubs to daddy cubs. Like, and the journey that was for us. So, because there was a time when we were all young and we were in our 20s and we were learning about like this thing called the bear community and what bears were. And we, found our tribe, so to speak. And we integrated into that and we became very active in various ways. You know, and we made a lot of connections. And so now, a couple decades have gone by and it occurred to me, I've been paying attention. So like in my hometown, there's a newer social organization that's come together over the past year and a half, I want to say, called Aging with Pride. And it's basically 55 plus individuals who are LGBTQIA plus, who are gathering to get together. They're doing some like charitable work. They're, doing engagements in different ways. The vast majority of them are retired. And so I'm, getting towards that age. And it started me thinking along this path of like, oh, I guess I haven't really thought about like what it means to be who I am now in that dynamic, because I spent so many years just being me. And like there was a good decade where I was, this young cubbish guy, right? And I was cute and I was adorable, like, and so I used that to my advantage in various ways at times.
Just like any responsible gay does.
Well, I mean, if it gains you favor, gets you free drinks,
gets you laid. Yeah, totally. I mean, that's
right.
exactly what you do. When I was skinny, it was the same thing. I got to throw in with the chaser group easily because I was skinny. Now I'm like I would not. I would probably still consider myself in the quote unquote chaser because I'm not that big. But yeah. And even recently, just within the past month or two, I realized that my temples are starting to go gray. My beard has been flat out gray for 5 years now. Was it 2020 that start really going gray?
I mean, that is no surprise to anybody, because that was the year we don't like to talk about. So if you believe that stress induces
no, well, the thing was, to me, 2020 was one of the best years of my life. Being a perpetual homebody and a non-social person.
True. So yeah, so you bring up a good point, Jeff, that like, our aging has been occurring visibly. You start getting gray hairs at a certain point, and then there's more of them.
Gary, if you would look up and to your left. Somebody's not as visually changing because you know the phrase.
I do, but I would be the least bit surprised if a certain co-host of ours was plucking them grays out.
You hold on a second. We're not going to talk. We're not going to gloss over that for a minute, shady bitch. First of all, no.
I got some whipping out.
No, this cub is not plucking their gray hairs.
Unfortunately, I don't.
I am getting gray hairs. I am literally getting them, but they are very sporadic. Like I can't really get any closer unless I pull my camera to me. But here we go. Hold on. Nope, can't do that. Never mind. I have like again. I keep saying it. Like I
Oh no,
have
I see
hairs
it.
like
I see
right
it.
here. Yeah,
There's like one hair.
yeah. There's a couple of hairs that are just there. I go. Now I can actually see my head. Like
I
there's a
really,
couple of hairs here
yeah.
that are gray that have gone like not really gray. They're literally so. And then I can when my hair grows out, like right now, but when my hair is grown out, I do have gray hairs. Like very few, very sporadic. It's not even. I'm not to the point of salt and pepper yet. It's like pepper and like a drop, like a salt, like a
One or two flakes.
yeah, yeah. So it's not, and it's weird. And I'll say this now because I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet because I remember my father going gray in his 40s. I remember. I mean, I don't remember. Like gray, the grayness is coming.
Right.
The gray hairs are going to come. It's just I feel like I'm going to like wake up one day and just be like just
Just
all gray.
white.
Yeah. I don't think it's gonna be white. I know it'll. I will definitely go salt. Like that's if if what I recall, not genetics, but what I've been told in regards to like things are true, and you follow like your mother's father, I'm going to go gray, and I can already tell I'm losing the hair like here, like on the top of my crown. So I know that's coming. Um, but it hasn't come yet.
Yeah. You'll be the last of us.
One of my
Anyways,
one of my
so
Yeah.
favorite parts though is I believe I'm probably the most gray,
yes.
and I'm the
Yeah.
youngest. What does that tell
Yeah.
you?
Well, but see, that's just it. Like, I mean, I got my first gray hair, I think, when I was 16 or 17. I was in high school, and I have the distinct memory because I was behind the high school of another nearby high school. I was in the band. We were there for some performance function. I don't know what it was, maybe a football game. I don't know. And one of my friends at the time was like, "Oh my God, you have a gray hair," and just goes yoink and pulls it right out of my head.
And shows it to you to prove that it's actually gray. I would
Correct.
kick that bitch in the face.
And a part of me was annoyed because I was like, great, I have my first gray hair. And then another part of me was like, well, you pulled it. So does that mean it's going to come back and now I'm going to get more? Like,
Right.
like, is this the beginning? Like, if I just left it alone, I would have had just the one lone
Yeah.
Which might
hair.
just kind of like just hide amongst the rest of your hair or something like that.
Yeah. You can hide them usually. Like that's why like this I mean this is beardy and this is I mean it's there. I'm not hiding it anymore because I'm at the point now where it's gonna be there.
Right.
But
So, yeah, like, I mean, it to your point, Jeff, like, of the three of us, you have the most. And this is a joke that I make a lot at work that I have to stop making because I realize I say it often is people kind of, talk about my age or forget my age, how old I am, or what my life experience could be, or understanding older references of things because they don't think of me as old as I am. And I kind of
mm,
tease, I point at my, like, in my beard, mostly my goatee area, like, especially across my chin, is like all gray white. And so I point to it like, does this not give it away? Like, but that's because it was darker when I was younger. So, like, to me, it's very evident that, like, this is
mm,
a sign of aging.
yeah.
But that being said, so today, was just kind of a general discussion about like what we've discovered through the process. And so a couple of questions that I wanted to ponder was like, first, what did we think of daddies when we were younger? Now, infamously, anyone who's like paid attention to the podcast knows that like we tease Damon mercilessly that he's always been a daddy chaser. But and Jeff has a thing for Santa Claus. So, but I mean, was that always the case for you? Was it so much a certain look or an age, an aspect of a maturity, or did that kind of come along at a certain point? Because I will admit, like for myself, when I was in my 20s, I didn't want to date anybody my age because I thought they were all so goddamn fucking immature. And I was like, hell no. Like, I need somebody who has a sense of themselves and a little bit of stability in their life. So I was always interested in somebody who was probably close to 8 to 10 years older than me.
I don't think I ever really thought about it. Like the only thing that I really thought about is about daddies were just somebody who was older and maybe a little more functional. And I didn't have a strict attractiveness to him, but a lot of the factors that you were talking about are like about stability, know themselves, etc. That was just like, I know I don't have these qualities, and if I'm gonna have a partner, I would like somebody with those qualities to kind of like push me along. Basically, and even if they were ended up being right around my age, or even younger, as I grew older. That's why I would like in a partner. Those are aspects. That's not necessarily daddy, but just somebody who is much better with adulting than I was.
Yeah, I was very much like Gary in a way, in that I dislike people around my age, but I own that up to like having to grow up really quickly because my parents divorced when I was in high school. So I preferred older, stable. Like stable is the word. I like that. I've always liked older gentlemen. I will own that. Yes, I will say I'm a daddy chaser in a way. But I didn't not in like appreciate people my age, but it was rare that it was a thing. Like I have always, and even now, I have in my our profiles. I always have like 21 and older, and realistically, it should be for like 25 or 26 or 30 and older. In a way, not that I have a problem with younger, but I know where my brain goes when it's an immediate reaction when someone 20, 22, 25 like messages me. I'm kind of like,
You want
I don't
somebody
know
who's
if that's
gotten
gonna
through
go.
this slutty phase of their life.
Not necessarily.
I mean, don't get
Um,
me wrong. It's one of those things. Well, at least my experience was in my early 20s was probably all I was thinking about was just trying to get laid. Like I would
mhm,
stop
mhm.
whatever I can if I could hook up with somebody. Um, Eventually I grew out of that, but eventually it tapered off. Not to say it
Mm.
disappeared, but it was like super slutty to maybe a little bit of a slut. Um, a bit of maybe a bit of a slut, but that hyper slutty days, I should say. Let me
The
modify it with that.
Yeah, the I'm oh I need somebody, like, let's do this now. Like, well, we didn't have phones really back then. It was a computer probably, or just like hanging out or whatever. Just like, let's get some. Being like, I don't care if I've got work to like coursework to do. If someone asked that they wanted to fuck, I did that. Like, oh, okay, let's do that. Um, but I know I always had an admiration for older. Um, yeah, I mean, we'll put it like this: when I was 24 and I met Jim, he was 40. Like that, just so everyone understands, we're like a 16, 17 between the two of us. We've been together ever since.
So, yeah, I mean, and the thing is, like, the reason I wanted to ask that question is I feel everybody kind of has their own journey. I remember when I was younger, there was a fair amount of like, ew, like, an older guy being interested in someone younger, like you're hitting on them, and, whether it was at the bar or at a bathhouse or whatever. And I very much acclimated into the mindset of like, listen here, you dumbass. Like, one day that will be you.
That part right there.
Right. And so, like, while you may not be interested, don't be a douche about it. Like,
Right.
there's polite ways to tell people that you're not interested if they're hitting on
hmm
you or expressing interest or whatever. Um,
I was
and
lucky
so,
enough to have not necessarily had that situation.
yeah, I mean, there was, I know a lot of the folks that were of my age group when I was, half my age were very much like, it was not the norm. It wasn't the thing. Zaddy
Right.
hadn't become a thing yet. Like, like there was just this whole very different aspect, I think, socially to stuff.
Yeah.
And so
I
everybody kind
do.
of found their own way.
Yeah, I do think it has shifted. I don't want to say recent years, but in like the past decade, if not a little more or less. There was a whole talk of dad bod that became a big thing, and then from there, like zaddies and stuff. And I think the idea of being with someone older is almost a rite of passage now, possibly. I can't speak from experience,
Mhm.
but it. I agree with you. Like in our days when we were younger, like being with or someone attractive, someone older who was attracted to you was almost like almost a no, thank you, gross, like get away from me. And for some of us, we felt differently, and it was exception to the rule. We were the exception to the rule, and I
Right.
feel like it has shifted to where older is better. I mean, think of the Hollywood like heartthrobs nowadays, and some of them, are like the somewhat older than Pedro Pascal just popped in my head. I'm like, yeah, like that's a perfect example of someone who kind of has that zaddy daddy energy without and has people have found very attractive.
Yeah, in fact, I was just going to look up because I'm not sure.
Pedro
He's
Pascal
50.
is 50.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so the thing for me is I think everyone kind of finds in their own way their attraction. And I mean, it's totally acceptable and understandable that like as you age, you like whether you're younger or aging, that you may not necessarily be interested in people that are older. There are some people that definitively get older and have always been interested in younger people. They just
Hmm.
happen to age, and their interest still remains the same in that case. For me, I did like someone older, but I will say, like, when I was in my 20s, I wasn't interested in necessarily finding a daddy. There were some guys who were
hmm
older that were
Yeah,
interested in me, and that wasn't something that I necessarily wanted or was interested in.
yeah. I think I,
So
I I like the daddy in sort of the guidance and mentorship in a way
Hmm.
that they would provide. Like I've lived this life. I mean, we just because of our trip, we went through Berea, which is where I went to college, and I'm recalling one of the older gentlemen I met while I was in school, and just remembering the while we had fun, sexy times. Don't get me wrong, like, he was amazing in bed. Just but that's secondary. But he was very experienced and knowledgeable and friendly and understanding. And one of the things, like I'm remembering my first, I'll put it like this: I had my first STI scare, but it was a real scare. It was one. and he had already like it was crabs, so I'll kind of put it out there. So I saw one for the first time, freaked the fuck out. He had already told me because he had like gotten rid of them in the past, but there was a possibility that he would still have them, and we played regardless. And ha ha ha, I got him too. And so, but he was he picked me up. He already had the stuff. We went to his place, and he took care of me. Literally took the time and did all of the stuff. And um, as a gosh, I would have been like 20, maybe 21 at that point. Dealing with that and having that freak out and having someone there was great to have because I don't think well, having really remembering the feelings that I had when it actually happened, I don't think I would have been able to have um, addressed it properly.
Right.
So
Well, and it's good that, he was, that way. I think that's what some people don't realize is like there's something to be said for life experience
hmm
and how you look at things and, the wisdom that comes from that and how you handle stuff. And what that can, be as a benefit to other folks, whether, you're in a relationship with them or fuck buddies or just friends.
Right.
So now I'm curious about this, and I don't know if there's a definitive time, but when did you begin to recognize that you/we were becoming daddies? Like, was it that somebody called you a daddy? Like, somebody gave you that label in a moment that you didn't expect them to say such a thing? Did you look in the mirror one day and be like, "Oh my God, I've become my father"?
I wouldn't say that, but I more declared myself, and I think it was just because I started becoming a bit kids these days. Like the curmudgeon, and I don't know how to describe it, but just it was just I had gray hair. Most of the people I was interacting with were younger than me. I was giving advice and basically very daddy esque situations. I like how these two are fanning themselves, and I'm just sitting here all chill.
Listen,
I'm
it
just
is
there.
it is very sticky
Ah,
right now.
right.
Like the temperature is not necessarily hot. It is just there's a lot of
Humid.
humidity.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say
It's
the M word, but 'cause I don't want to trigger some folks. But
uh
yeah, so I'm busy
so
fanning like just to try to like help sweatiness. Anyways,
sweaty. Uh, I think for me it was getting called one at first. Like I I don't remember the exact moment, but I do remember being called it and going, "Am I daddy?" Kind of. And when I go like as a kinkster and all of that stuff, that kind of there's a respectability to that in a way, and I'm not quite fully embracing it in that regard. I could. Um but it sort of became apparent, especially on that realm of it, when I was more interested in guiding and educating and teaching than I was in actually doing the play, as it were. Um, I'm still a pup at heart. I will own that, although probably more doggo in a sense. But the idea behind the shift happened for me when people started calling me that and then being like, I could either try to avoid this or ignore this reality or embrace it. And embracing it became honestly easier. In all honesty, it realizing kind of what I was talking about earlier. I, as an older cub bear, I have experience and knowledge that could be beneficial to someone else, especially someone younger getting into community, whether that's the kink community, the letter community, or the bear community. Um, and also learning from those people to grow more in what I. Yeah.
Yeah, I when I found myself talking and hanging and being around people who were like half my age, I didn't realize that they like thought of me in such a capacity or referenced me as such
Hmm.
until I actually overheard it, or it was kind of referenced, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And it took me back a little bit. Like I remember distinctly there was kind of this reference to being like how I'm like a father figure. And
Hmm.
I took it pretty seriously because I was like, "Oh, that's a big deal." And for me it was because I had a lot of respect for my own father. So
Hmm.
I looked at it from that standpoint. Um, but, also found that a little interesting because then I was like, "Well, what does that mean? Like, what will that?" Because then to me, like I started getting in my head and I was like, "Well, does that mean that that's the way they always think of me?" And
Mm.
like my thoughts were like I wanted them to think of me as like their friend or something and not so much of that necessarily parental dynamic. So, yeah. But
Yeah. That's always been, I think, part of it too, is you don't know if you want to necessarily become that. But where you were thinking, oh, I'm just like one of you guys. I'm one of the guys, hey there, fellow youths, or whatever kind of thing. It was does become a bit of a shock, like a sudden, like, oh, right, I'm not the young one here. Um, I'm I'm
yeah, it
I'm probably the oldest one in the room. Like that becomes a thing, and for good or bad, it it takes a minute to like shift gears and shift your focus and understand that, oh, okay, you can either, like I was saying, you can either like be like, no, 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 I'm still one of you. I'm still one of you youngins. I'm still a young one. I'm young. I'm beautiful. Damn it. Or you can be like, okay, cool. Let's do that. Let's be that guy and be okay with it.
yeah. I mean, I decided for myself that I was going to be comfortable with the idea of being that role as they felt I should be, um, as needed, and however that went about its way. But it has been interesting to age and for them to age and to see how, things go for them in that way. So that being said, how do we feel about... Okay, I'm going to make a presumption. You feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. My question is, how do we feel about being or becoming daddy cubs? Or do you not feel that that's an appropriate label for yourself?
Mm.
I've accepted that I am essentially a daddy cub since I was probably 39, 40 years old. As
So
soon
10 minutes ago.
as I started looking the part and a bit acting the part, I was like, I'm a daddy cub. I'm just am. That's the way I am, and here I am.
Right. Yeah. I think daddy cub's appropriate. I think just daddy would be fine too. Um, I'm fine either way. I feel good. Sorry, I'm just laughing at you, Carrie. I feel it feels appropriate, like right now. I can and I can still honestly, I can still be a daddy and a boy or a cub if I need to be. I can still be the youngin because haha, I tend to find older guys more interesting. It's just those guys are now getting older because I'm also getting older. And I'm not saying that that's what purely my focus. No, I find other people attractive too, and I find it. I'm at the point now where I have this sort of, it's going to sound bad, wide net to cast, as it were, because I'm now at the age where some youngins can be in. I hate using the word youngins, but the youngins can be interested in me in a daddy kind of capacity, and us have our fun, and then I can then also have interest from other older men. So I'm embracing it. I'm embracing it. I'm embracing it. On the I'm throwing the leather side of it, kink side of it too. I've the thought of taking someone in as a submissive or a boy or yeah, has crossed my mind in recent years. Um, I don't know if it'll happen, but I've been on the other end of it, being someone who has wanted to be someone's sub or boy, and it didn't it doesn't always work out that way. Like it doesn't always work out
I
that way.
mean, could it be
So
that
sometimes you have to embrace.
kind of interested in that mentorship role?
I probably am. Like more than anything else, I'm more interested in mentorship than anything. Uh, that I think is very true. I'm just looking over, and I have a book actually. So if you know, there's a book called Leather Mentorship by J. Tobias Perry. Um, I got this when um, I was doing the contest, and I've read it, and I've read through it a couple of times, and I really do enjoy the idea of mentorship. Um, so that could be where my life takes me, and especially in the kink community, is that like maybe not necessarily a full on having someone serve under me in a way, but to guide and mentor others. But Daddy
Okay.
Cub is I think, appropriate title for me right now. Or Doggo. Doggo's a good one too.
Yeah, um I think I grew into it over time.
Hmm.
And I also realized that I'm not the type of person who wants to fight against like the aging, the evolution, and be like,
Hmm.
no, I'm gonna be young forever. You know what I mean? Like, because like I was just thinking about this recently, that people make all these choices, they dye their hair, they change certain aspects of themselves, they might even like have some surgery, like, like they do these things, and I'm like, okay, like if you think it's necessary, that's your decision. I'm just like, I don't come from that kind of stock. Neither of my families, I think, are, very much
Right.
along those lines. I mean, there, don't get me wrong, there is a sense of vanity to a certain point, but I've also seen how it doesn't really work quite very
Mm.
well. Um, the male hair coloring products and processes out there are not
Oh
necessarily that great.
no.
Um, so, and for the longest time, I wondered if it was more about skill or the actual product, and I kind of landed on most likely the actual products. Um,
Mm.
and so it's like, more often than not, it becomes kind of very apparent um, that people are doing things, and I'm like, "Mm, okay, like that's your decision, but
Yeah.
there's a part of me that's like,
Yeah.
not really necessary."
And that's yeah. And that's sort of the like the other side of it. Like as we're kind of joking about me and like plucking the gray hairs and all that stuff. And again, I'm like you. I don't want to do anything that like diet or anything like that. I just it does not make you younger. It doesn't make you look younger. It
Mm,
makes you look like you're hiding.
mm,
That's like I appreciate if you want to go that route, that's fine. But I think for me, I prefer you to just be your natural. Let it happen naturally. Let the color change happen. Gary is like a I point look at you and it's a perfect example. Kind of like yes, you're kind of going grays down here, but you're not really so much up top, right?
I mean, it's slowly coming in,
Yeah,
but even my dad, like his hair never fully changed,
right.
uh, which is interesting because like his mother, my grandmother, um, she infamously dyed her hair for decades. And it was really kind of comical in the family because she, like, I remember very distinctly, she was a Miss Clairol chestnut brown for like 20 to 30 years. And then at some point, she decided that she was going to let her hair grow out. But what she decided was she went up the color chart. So she went from chestnut brown to like medium brown to light brown, and then turned into the blondes. Like she kept changing the color like variation over time. So when she stopped dyeing her hair, it wasn't so shocking because she
Mm,
knew that her hair was like she was going to be like her mother. My great grandmother was snow white hair.
mm,
So eventually she did end up stopping um, coloring her hair. And so yeah, like I was really surprised as to how dynamically different it made her look, thinking back onto when she was, using product and being younger or not. Um, but for me, I guess I'm following more like my dad, which he didn't follow her at like, his hair kind of silver around the temples, more gray on top, but never really quite stopped. Or fully changed over, I guess to say. So yeah, I'm kind of like, we'll see. My mom didn't necessarily either, and I'm like, I'm okay with that.
yeah.
I'm also okay if it actually all turns. I'm not just to clarify to the universe, I'm putting this out there, like it doesn't need to do it overnight. The progress we're on is just a great timeline. Don't get crazy
want
with
a
it.
you want a gradual transition, which I agree with. I don't think I want a um suddenly shockingly like change. Like the ones like I keep saying, like I have some coming in on the top of my head and on the actually more on the sides than the top. Um, I'm okay with it gradually happening. I think that gives my brain the time and capacity to adjust to the reality
Mhm.
of it all. Um, I have to check. Need to find out.
Yeah, I really feel like, coming into this is like, a personal mission, but I'm very much on the side of like, I don't like everyone's going to take their own personal journey, but I don't think it's necessary to like resist it or fight it. Um, but I can also understand where people might not feel comfortable with it or prepared and how challenging that can be. So,
Right.
you know, do what you think is best for you in that case.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Hmm.
I think um it's just a part of the whole like evolution of maturity as well, like with aging.
Yeah.
Like I remember distinctly when I was probably around 40 is maybe when like I might have first like got like reference to as daddy, and not in the like, kind of like I think of you as a father figure way, but like, hey daddy. And I think I was like, wait, what? Like it just kind of caught me off guard because I wasn't thinking of it that way. I
No.
also remember distinctly, I think I was in my mid to late 30s, and this older bear couple, God bless them. I follow them on social media, so I think of this every now and then. They met me at a bear run and they saw me, and it was really funny because they were, flirty and fun and that. And one of them turned to the other one and said, "Oh, yeah, he's gonna be a hot daddy." And I did not know what to do with that. I was like, "What? What just happened?" Like, and like I wasn't mad about it. I think I was just more shocked.
Mm.
But also there was this weird thing where I was like, "Is that a thing? Like, do you get labeled? Like, do you get an honorific? Like, does that somehow get bestowed on you?" Like, I know that's not really the case, but it was just so kind of comical in a way that they, as an older couple who were definitely in the identity of that and living their life and being very happy about it. What I was amused by in a way was they were like, "We see this in you,
Mm.
and this will be a good thing." And I was just kind of like, "Oh, all right." Like after I got past the shock, because I was not ready for hearing that. Um, so yeah, I'm like, "Oh, all right, yeah, that's a thing." And I've seen that sometimes. Like I've seen some cubs where I'm like, "Oh, baby, like
Yeah.
your baby fat face, like you're so cute and like, adorable." And I'm like, "Yeah, the world's in trouble. You're a killer. Like you're
Hmm.
gonna get older, like you're gonna continue to evolve and grow, and like if people think you're cute and hot now, they haven't like, it will just become exponential."
Yeah.
I mean, that starts at a young age. Oh, this one's going to be a heartbreaker.
Mm.
Well, it does, and I realize like that's kind of unasked for commentary like that we do as a society. We have a bad habit of doing that with like the youth. We say things like, like, "Oh, like, one day you'll be married and you'll have a wife or you'll have a husband, and you'll have kids and blah blah blah." And it's kind of like, well, you don't know that. Like you're just presuming
Right.
that.
Right.
And I'm not saying that like saying that someone's going to be a heartbreaker or a heartthrob is, the same thing, but I do see that we have a tendency to like bestow that upon people or feel in a certain way. Because I know I have said that because I have seen some young kids, babies, and I'm like, "Oh my God, like you," like I kind of tease the parent. I'm like, "You're in trouble. Like, if you don't think you're in trouble now, you're going to be in trouble later." Like, because this child is very, very good looking, and that's probably going to continue. And if it amplifies, good luck on you. Because
Yes. I just always, it's so interesting because you don't realize it until later. You're like, yeah, you right there, yeah. If you were 20 years older, if you were like, or something like that. I've been there.
Yeah. No,
Mm-mm-mm.
I definitely understand that. And I think,
Yeah.
it's all a matter of like where we think we are and how we look at those things. So yeah, I think it's a natural part of the progression. Um and there's more and more of us every day as that comes about. Um and I think that, you know, there's something to be said for, I guess, owning it, being accepting of it, and choosing to recognize that, and decide how you want to carry that forward.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts as we get towards wrapping up?
My advice for the youngins: embrace your daddiness when it comes on. There's no fighting it. Just embrace it.
Yeah.
I mean, is it going to feel awkward? It can. Can it be a little a little shocking or catch you off guard? Sure.
Yeah.
It can also be pretty rewarding.
True.
So have fun.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think I know. Well, I'll say it like this: it's going to happen. Like whether you like it or not, we all age. We're all going to get older. That's just the way it is. Um, if you want to be a daddy, you can be a daddy. If you're okay with not, if you don't want to be a daddy, you don't have to be a daddy. But do understand that you may be called that. And if you're absolutely vehemently against it, then make sure that you let other people know, um, because that's sort of the world we're in right now. We find labels and we put them on people. So if you are, gosh, I haven't heard this in a while. If you're a chicken hawk, as it were, um, if you're going to be an older person that wants the younger ones, which is what a chicken hawk is, then that's fine. You be that. Embrace that. But don't be surprised if someone calls you a dad.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
And with
And let
that,
it, yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the end.
Mhm.
Huh? I don't know. We'll probably bring up the Daddy Cub thing again at some future date. We've had before, bring it again, although probably not as a full show like this. But if
We
you
might forget.
enjoy, What?
Really?
I said we might forget.
Really?
It didn't
Yeah.
start as a bit, and then I was like, oh, and then I went into a bit. Anyways, ways to contact us. Up our website, cubsoutloud.com. Shoot us an email at cubsoutloud@gmail.com. Leave us a voicemail telling us how sexy we daddy cubs are at 361-COL Talk. That's 361-265-8255. Follow us on Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter, YouTube, and Blue Sky at Cubs Out Loud in the appropriate place of the URL. You can join our entourage chat on Telegram at bit.ly/telegram-col. And also subscribe to our Google Calendar to find out when we're planning on recording these shows at bit.ly/calendars-col. If you would like some merchandise, you can pop over to Zazzle.com/Cubs Out Loud. We got many designs there, and some of them were designed by Smashy. You can find more of his work at tpublic.com/user/Smashy the Bear. If you want to support us, you can also become a patron at patreon.com/Cubs Out Loud. We thank all of your patrons for your support. especially when I have those years where I have to pay the server fees. That's at patreon.com/cubsoutloud. You can also send us a donation at paypal.me/cubsoutloud. You can find us on the various podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and right here on YouTube where you can like, comment, and subscribe. You can find me anywhere in the internet as Box, That Box, Puppy Box, Cub Box, something or other, maybe. Damon.
If you wish to get in touch with me, you can find me as TheaterCub79, that's TheatreCub79 on most related sites. Or you can find me as pup_umbra on X or pup_umbra79 on Blue Sky. Those are not safe for work. For safe for work stuff, you want to go to DMAGamer79 on TikTok, Blue Sky, or X. Gary?
If you would like to get in touch with me, you can pretty much find me anywhere online as GareBear73.
And with that, say good night, everybody.
Bye, Daddy.
Have a good one, y'all.